You're not stressed. You're drowning in decisions you never agreed to make. And your house, your phone, your closet, your schedule is the trap. A 42-year-old Japanese businessman walked out of his apartment with 37 possessions, not because he snapped, because he finally stopped running from himself. This isn't a cute minimalist video. This is an identity reset for men who feel heavy, scattered, and tired, while the world tells you to buy something and keep up. Today you'll learn the Japanese system that turns chaos into control: Kanso, Seijaku, Shizen. And I'm going to say the part nobody says out loud. Most of what you own isn't comfort, it's avoidance. And avoidance is expensive, financially, mentally, spiritually. Subscribe, like, and comment your honest guess. How many things do you own? Not to shame you, to wake you up, because you can't change what you refuse to measure. Now, let's go to Tokyo. Tishi stood in the center of his 850 square foot apartment, surrounded by 10,000 possessions. He counted them over a week, not because he was proud, because he was scared. 10,000 is not a lifestyle. 10,000 is a symptom. On paper, he was winning, marketing executive, good salary, good image, but he was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix, because his mind never stopped managing. Closets packed with clothes he barely wore, shelves full of unread books that stared like accusations, tech stacked in drawers, boxes labeled "someday." Every surface full, every drawer stuffed. His apartment looked like his mind, overloaded, overstimulated, and always trying to control what it couldn't. The breaking point wasn't dramatic, it was a black t-shirt. He went to buy one simple black t-shirt and faced 127 options. Same color, same function, different promises. His brain shut down. Security found him sitting on the floor, tears on his face, unable to choose. A doctor called it decision fatigue leading to analysis paralysis. Translation: his environment trained his nervous system to live in constant micro-stress until it finally crashed. That night he called his aunt, his mother's sister, and asked, "What did my mom mean when she talked about Kanso?" His aunt said something that shattered his idea of minimalism. "Your mother didn't want you to throw things away, Tishi. She wanted you to understand why you needed them. Kanso isn't about having less, it's about needing less. And you can't need less until you understand what you're trying to fill." That's the doorway, because the real enemy isn't clutter, it's the need. Tishi researched Kanso, the Japanese principle of simplicity. But what he found wasn't decluttering, it was a diagnosis of modern life. A 16th century tea master, Sen no Rikyu, built tea rooms with one rule: only what is essential may exist inside, nothing extra. Because extra wasn't just ugly, extra was violence. Rikyu wrote that every unnecessary object commits violence against your consciousness. Why? Because it demands attention. It requires decisions. It creates relationships. And your attention has a limit. Tishi looked around with new eyes. His possessions weren't neutral, they were active. Each object was like an open browser tab in his mind. More clothes equals more daily micro-decisions. Unread books equals daily guilt triggers. Duplicate devices equals maintenance anxiety. Just-in-case items equals fear you never resolve. This is where rewired reality gets blunt. If you can't focus, you can't build. If you can't rest, you can't lead. If your mind is full of noise, your life stays small. So Kanso isn't decoration, it's survival. And if you think this is just stuff, test it today. Walk into a messy room and try to plan your next year. Then walk into a clean room with one empty surface and try again. Your mind will tell you the truth. Clutter doesn't just take space, it takes authority. Because every time you can't find your keys, your charger, your other shoe, your brain learns a quiet lesson. I'm not in control here. And that lesson leaks into everything. Your work, your patience, your discipline, your confidence. That's why simplifying your space isn't a home project, it's an identity project. Tishi did a brutal exercise. He sat in the center of his apartment, closed his eyes, imagined it empty, then added back only what served his actual daily life. Not his fantasy, not his status, not his maybe someday. He started at 11 p.m. He finished at 4 a.m. Out of 10,000 possessions, only about 100 survived the mental test. Everything else fit into 5 categories. Fantasy self-objects, when I become that guy. Past identity anchors, fear insurance, what if. Emotional medication, this will make me feel better. And status props, people will respect me. That's not life, that's performance. Day 2 is where most people quit. Because when the noise fades, silence shows up. And silence doesn't just calm you, silence exposes you. Tishi woke up expecting relief. Instead, he felt panic. Because without the objects, at least mentally, he could finally feel what he'd been drowning out. Grief, shame, regret, and the question he'd avoided for years. What is my life actually for? Rikyu taught that Kanso must be followed by Seijaku, tranquil stillness. Because simplicity reveals what you're hiding from, and most people run the second they feel it. Tishi didn't run. He sat on the floor and cried for hours. Not soft tears, shaking sobs. He cried for his mother. He cried for the time he wasted. He cried because for the first time, he could finally feel. You can't out-discipline pain you refuse to face. You can only bury it. And buried pain becomes expensive habits. Seijaku is training your ability to stay present when your mind begs for escape. No phone, no scrolling, no productive distraction. Just you, breathing, with the truth. Hour after hour, something shifted. The grief didn't vanish. It changed shape. It turned from a monster into information. Tishi realized, my possessions weren't making me happy. They were preventing me from processing why I wasn't. Then came Ma, the beauty of empty space. Western culture treats emptiness like a problem to fill. Ma treats emptiness as a weapon, space for breath, thought, and calm. Tishi applied Ma to his apartment, and then to his schedule and mind. He removed constant stimulation. He left gaps. He stopped filling every silence, and something returned, clarity. Here's the line you need. That unbearable feeling when you're alone with no distraction, that isn't boredom, that's your consciousness trying to breathe. And if breathing feels like dying, it means you've been suffocating yourself for years. His aunt gave him a Ma practice. Clear one room, sit in it for an hour, feel the space, then return only what enhances life, not what clutters it. The first minutes were panic, then settling, then peace. The kind of peace you forgot existed. Now the identity knife. Shizen, naturalness without pretense. Keep only what is natural to your actual life, not your imagined life. Tishi realized most of his possessions belonged to a fantasy self. The impressive executive, the validated man, the identity built for other people's eyes. But in stillness, his real self showed up. Simple tea, not complex status habits. Comfortable clothes, not armor. Writing, not performance. Meaning, not more. The cruelty hit him. He spent years buying objects for a person he didn't even want to be. His aunt gave him an exercise. Part 1. Who are you when no one is watching? What brings genuine peace, not impressive peace? What feels natural, not ambitious? Part 2. Match possessions to the real self. If it serves performance, question it. If it serves peace and purpose, keep it. Then he made the physical change. He donated, sold, or discarded everything except 37 items. Not to prove a point, to stop bleeding attention. 6 months later, Tishi's life looked unrecognizable. He worked fewer hours, spent less money, cleaned in minutes, slept without medication. His anxiety dropped from constant to occasional, not because he became motivated, because he removed the daily noise that was training his nervous system to panic. His father visited the apartment, looked around at the emptiness, and cried, "This is what your mother wanted. Not the executive with 10,000 things and no peace. This, present." Tishi finally understood his mother's sentence. Simplify your life before life simplifies you. Here's the truth most men won't admit. You don't accumulate because you love objects. You accumulate because you're avoiding yourself. Shopping can be sedation. Organizing can be control fantasy. Keeping just in case can be fear management. Status purchases can be rented confidence. Consumer culture profits from your avoidance because there's no profit in peace. There's profit in insecurity. So I'll ask you what Tishi asks his clients. How many of your possessions serve the life you're actually living versus the life you're performing? If you can't answer, that's not a moral failure. It's a sign you've been living from noise, not truth. You don't need 3 days like Tishi. You need a standard. Do this for 4 weeks. Week 1, Kanso, see the violence. Don't throw anything away yet, just practice seeing. In your bedroom, visualize it empty. Add back only what serves your real daily life. Everything else is cognitive violence. Write down what you notice. Week 2, Seijaku, stillness training. Create 30 minutes of silence daily. No phone, no content. Sit with what rises. If grief shows up, let it. If anger shows up, write it. Crying isn't weakness, it's processing. You're not falling apart, you're coming back online. Week 3, breathing space. Choose one surface, desk, counter, table. Clear it completely. Leave it empty for 7 days. Notice what happens to your nervous system. Only return items that serve function or real peace. Week 4, Shizen, kill the fantasy self. Make 2 lists, real self versus fantasy self. Fantasy self items are the ones you bought to become someone. Release 1 category, 1 drawer, 1 shelf, 1 box. You're not losing things, you're losing lies. Your family doesn't need you to own more, they need you present. And every unnecessary object steals a piece of your presence. Death will simplify you. It takes everything. But you can choose simplification now, before life forces it. If this hit you, subscribe. And comment 2 things. Your honest guess, how many possessions you own. The emotion you think they're helping you avoid. Because awareness is the first cut, and every cut makes you lighter. The rebuild starts now.